Good morning, and thank you to everyone for joining us for the second webinar in our series on local government. My name is Sabiha Mutala, Project Coordinator at Corruption Watch, and I'm joined by Ayanda Kota, Project Assistant at Corruption Watch. Local government has been an area for which Corruption Watch has consistently received reports. Local government elections are imminent, though it seems that they will be pushed to early next year. However, in the meantime, service delivery needs must still be met by municipalities, and leadership of local government continues. Local government is tasked with the delivery of basic services, including water, sanitation, electricity, and the maintenance of public spaces, among other things. However, the question on the minds of many residents is what to do when they feel that their municipality is not effectively delivering these services and addressing their needs. In municipalities across South Africa, WhatsApp groups and street representatives have become useful tools for bridging the communication gap between people and their municipalities, and also between them and their elected representatives. Within my own community, we have street reps and WhatsApp groups where we escalate issues with water or electricity or refuse, and it has been quite effective in some instances. There also exist mechanisms such as reporting hotlines, but are these tools always sufficient? Is there any more drastic action that can be taken? In the town of Costa in the Northwest Province, the Ratepayers Association was granted control over the Ketling-Rivier local municipality's water and refuse systems by an interim court order. This because the municipality had been unable to adequately provide services, and the municipality is also in debt to entities such as Eskom. This is one example of how people have taken matters into their own hands, making use of accountability mechanisms available to them. It's with this backdrop that we invited our two speakers here today. We have Dr. Onkgopotse Madumo, who is a lecturer at the School of Public Management and Administration at the University of Pretoria. He's an expert in local government and has written extensively on development, politics, and civic action and public policy. We're also joined by Ayanda Kota, activist and founding chairperson of the Unemployed People's Movement in Makhanda, Eastern Cape, and a proponent of the Black Consciousness movement. In 2020, the UPM succeeded in a legal application to have their municipality dissolved on the grounds of corruption and for failing to provide basic services. Ayanda?
Thank you very much, Sabia. So as my colleague said, we're joined by Dr. Madumo from the University of Pretoria in the School of Public Administration and Ayanda Kota from UPM. So firstly, we're going to have a presentation from Dr. Madumo. So Dr. Madumo, you can go ahead. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, colleagues. I really appreciate it. And indeed, it is my singular honor and privilege to be sharing, my 2 cents worth with all of you. Thank you very much. Let me just quickly. All right. Yeah. Before I move on to the next slide, I just want to share that, I was given a brief, by the colleagues that I must prepare a short presentation to address the legal basis for dissolving municipalities, and also not only just dissolving them for the sake of dissolving them, but to also hold them accountable in the process. So this is what I had prepared. Now, the overview of my presentation will be as follows. I'm going to start by explaining and discussing some of the legislative framework in place to ensure accountability in municipalities, and also some of the pieces of legislation that kind of give an indication on when action should be taken given a municipality's failure and so on. I will also discuss the case studies that I have. Well, there's actually one case study, but also to give a broader overview of whether this dissolution of municipal councils work or not. And I will then discuss just briefly the reasons for ethical practice and why is ensuring ethical conduct in municipalities or in the broader local government is important, and ultimately will provide some recommendations in the concluding remarks. Now, In terms of the legislative framework, we all are aware of the fact that the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa is the supreme law of the Republic. What this means is that there is no any other law that is above, the Constitution. And in actual fact, the Constitution, any law that could be deemed to be inconsistent with what the Constitution says could be considered invalid. It would be regarded as a law that is null and void. Now, when one looks into Chapter 7 of the Constitution, Section 1, from Section 151 right through to Section 1, I believe it's 161, which covers local government, but it does not comprehensively cover local government, as some sections would make assertions to other national pieces of legislation that came as a result of what the Constitution would have discussed, and in this case it would be, for example, the Municipal Demarcation Act, the Structures Act, and the Municipal Systems Act, amongst others. So when you look at that particular chapter on local government, you have an idea that firstly, local government could have been considered as an afterthought, during the CODESA negotiations. That is, discussions for another day. But when you, for example, venture into Section 152 of the Constitution, you will notice that there are specific objects of local government that the Constitution says these are the deal breakers. The first one is that of providing a democratic and accountable government for local municipalities. This implies that municipalities have the responsibility to ensure that where they govern, they ensure accountability and as well as democracy. The second object is that of ensuring the provision of services to communities in a sustainable manner. This means that the responsibilities of the municipality, insofar as the provision of basic services or essential services, if you like, has to be done, in a consistent, in a more sustainable manner. So, for example, City of Tshwane, where I reside, cannot decide to provide us with water service only on Mondays. It must be in a more regular, more sustainable manner, because we need water, electricity, refuse removal, and as well as sanitation on a daily basis. Some of the services that are provided, for example, by the National Ministry of Government, are not services that are needed on a daily basis. And you could have seen why there was some kind of confusion in terms of the deployment, for example, of soldiers in hotspot areas during the looting in the past month that we have witnessed. So with local government or with municipality, services have to be provided on a continuous, on a day-to-day basis, and it must be in a sustainable manner. The third object of local government is that of providing social and economic development to communities. The fourth one is that of promoting a safe and healthy environment. And ultimately, and I believe this is one of the most important, to encourage involvement of communities and community organizations in the affairs of local government. Most of you would actually know that a municipal budget, and also a municipal integrated development plan cannot be passed by a municipal council if it has not been taken through, the community, for their community inputs and so on. So it is incumbent upon a municipality to actually, provide a platform for residents to participate in the affairs of the municipality. So with that opening, I think it would be important for me to kind of, link that to, the interesting part on why would a municipality be dissolved. Now, for a municipality to be dissolved, if a combination or any of the objects that I have highlighted have not been, have not been taken care of by the municipality, that municipality has effectively failed in its constitutional mandate, because the constitution says these are the 5, objects that you need to address, and if failure in which a provincial executive, for example, can intervene through Section 139 on the affairs of local government. Section 139 reads as follows: when a municipality cannot, so this means that they don't have capacity to, or does not, they may have the capacity but decide not to, fulfill an executive obligation in terms of the constitution or any other legislation, the provincial executive may intervene by taking appropriate steps to ensure the fulfillment of that particular executive obligation. And this can be done in the following format. Firstly, it could be through issuing of a directive to the municipal council. They would alert the municipal council, you have done wrong in 1, 2, 3, 4 aspects, and this is where you should rectify. That is by issuing a directive. The second one, it's by assuming responsibility for a particular relevant, obligation. So in this instance, the provincial executive, for example, may feel that in terms of, a provision of a specific service, let's, for hypothetically speaking, say this service, it's water service, to the provision of water service. Now, the provincial government may decide to now assume the responsibility of providing that, water to communities. And the third one is the dissolution. So by dissolving a municipal council, this means that the municipal council will no longer be in existence as voted for in the previous election. And as a result, the provincial executive council or member responsible for local government in the provincial executive council, that would be an MEC of local government, may also appoint an administrator until a newly elected municipal council has been declared elected, if exceptional circumstances warrant such a step. Now, one would think, but what would make a municipality, to be dissolved, or the municipal council to be dissolved? What could be the circumstances that may lead to a municipal council being dissolved? I will discuss a little bit later some of the one case in point. Now, the legislative framework also provides for, through the Municipal Finance Management Act, it also provides for some responsibilities that municipal managers have to comply with. These are the accounting officers within a municipality. These are the fiduciary duties, and one of the fiduciary duties is that an accounting officer, that is the municipal manager, has to exercise utmost care to ensure reasonable protection of the assets and records of the entity. And the municipal manager also has to act with fidelity, with honesty, because the characteristics of, acting in fidelity or with fidelity, honesty, integrity are inherent in the position of a municipal manager, or in the position of a stature that a municipal manager, office is structured. And this has to be in the best interest of an organization, of a municipality, in managing the financial affairs of this particular municipality or a municipal entity. Another fiduciary duty of accounting officer is that of, disclosing all material facts, including those reasonably covered in a way, in any way that may influence, to also prevent any prejudice of the financial interest of a municipality or of an entity. Now, with these fiduciary duties, it is assumed that once we get it right at the top, that would be at the office of the accounting officer, then everything else shall follow. And this assumption, I assume it would be correct on the basis that the accounting officer or the municipal manager, being the accounting officer, has to take, responsibility for the general management and administration, has to ensure that systems and processes within a municipality are in order. So if, the municipal manager at the top, things are not going okay or are not going well, it would be expected that, anyone reporting either directly or indirectly to the office of the municipal manager as the accounting officer will not, toe the line. But if things are correct at the top, things tend to, take form or take shape, at the bottom. Now, there is an interesting piece of legislation called the Public Audit Amendment Act. This Amendment Act took effect from 2019, and this particular piece of legislation expands the scope of the Auditor General to try and strengthen the accountability mechanism by ensuring that, there is adequate support provided to accounting officers, that would be municipal managers, on material irregularities identified. Now, these material irregularities in the past, what used to happen before this, Amendment Act was enacted? What used to happen was the Auditor General would come to a municipality X and they will say, Municipality X, you have, grossly violated pieces of legislation, the Municipal Finance Management Act, your own policies as the municipality, and so on. As a result, we recommend that you must fix 1, 2, 3 issues. Municipalities would just simply ignore, the Auditor General, one of the Chapter 9 institutions, they will simply ignore. Now, with this Amendment Act, they cannot do that anymore. Firstly, it empowers the Auditor General to refer material irregularities to relevant bodies for further investigation. That would be the Hawks, the National Prosecuting Authority, and so on, to further, they investigate whatever issues that they would have picked up in that particular municipality. And a case in point would be, for example, just 2-3 days ago, there was a case about the former municipal manager of Mahikeng local municipality, who has been to court on the issues that relates to the 92 million rands that was invested in the VBS, mutual bank. And so effectively what this particular expansion of the scope of the Auditor General says is that if Municipality X does not, you have identified as the Auditor General, you have identified material irregularity, you approach them, you say to them, can you fix? Failing in which you can refer this type of issues or this type of matters to the law enforcement agencies. The second aspect is that of taking binding remedial action for failure to implement the Auditor General's recommendations for this particular material irregularity. And thirdly, to issue a certificate of debt. And this is why municipal managers would think twice before they, even apply for positions of being a municipal manager. Now, with this certificate of debt, it means that the onus will now be solely on the municipal manager. So the certificate of debt will be issued to a municipal manager. Municipal manager X of a municipality, there were material irregularities that were identified, and 15 million rands is missing. It's somewhere, it went down the drain somewhere, we cannot trace it. Then it is then the responsibility of the municipal manager in his or her own capacity to actually, ensure that that money is recovered, or else we'll take it from you in one way or the other. So that is what the certificate of debt speaks to. So now, this Public Audit Amendment Act, very important, because it aims to address, some of these unethical issues within municipalities. Now, the next piece of legislation that aims at trying to ensure accountability is the Municipal Systems Amendment Bill of 2019. Now, this bill, it's not new. The bill has been in existence. The bill was initially passed in 2011, if my memory serves me well. It was passed initially in 2011 after the local government elections, yes. And the bill, how it was passed, it was to try and, address issues that relates to how senior staff is appointed, to address some of the competencies of senior management or senior staff. That would be municipal manager and some of the managers that directly reports to the municipal managers and so on. But now, the manner in which the bill was then passed in 2011, it was passed in an, I don't want to say in an incorrect way, but in hindsight, things were done that were not correct. Now, the bill then was just passed at the national sphere of government without necessarily taking it through provinces, because it was assumed that it did not have any direct implication to provinces. But now in 2019, a constitutional court, made a ruling that the then Systems Amendment Act was passed unconstitutionally because it was supposed to have been passed as a Section 76 bill, which would...
Dr. Madumo?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, you have 2 minutes, please.
All right, let me summarize. Thank you very much. So the bill was then passed. The bill was then taken through proper processes, through provincial legislatures, the NCOP, and so on, so that it can be passed. Now, the most important issue on this particular aspect is that this bill prohibits staff members of municipalities from holding political office. So you cannot be a secretary of a branch, you cannot be a secretary of a province or region or whatever the case might be if you are a staff member of a municipality. As long as you get remunerated by the municipality, you cannot stand for political office. It also introduces consequence management for the appointments which are not compliant with legislation. It also introduces timeframes for the conclusion of performance agreements of accounting officers. Now, the case studies that I have identified. Firstly, before the case study, there was an investigation by the Public Affairs Research Institution or Institute, which found that the practice of placing municipalities under administration is not effective. And in their research of, they looked at municipalities in the past 22 years. And they have identified that there has been over 140 municipal interventions that have been attempted in the past 22 years, and from the 140, about 48 of them were repeat offenders. So now this begs the question, what could be, the problem with these interventions? Are these interventions effective? Are they aimed at, addressing what challenges municipalities could be confronted with? That I leave it to you to ponder. Now, the case study is that of Mutu local municipality. After the 2016 local government elections, the Mutu local municipality have never been able to muster a quorum for them to meet and elect officials that would be, that would form the executive of the municipality. And I think somewhere around 2017, towards the end of the year of 2017, an intervention was, effected in that particular municipality, and they had to go for a rerun of elections. They did that. It was successful. Now they managed to formulate a government. And in 2018, 2019, as a result of failure to investigate unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, the provincial executive decided we need to put this municipality under Section 139, paragraph 1B.
One more minute, Doctor.
Yes. This is yes. Thank you. So the municipal and also the municipal public accounts committee has been dysfunctional in this particular municipality. Now, concluding remarks, and thank you very much for your courtesy, moderator. Local government is adequately regulated, so we cannot introduce any more pieces of legislation. There has been about 17 pieces of legislation that regulates this particular sphere and this sphere alone. I think it's adequately regulated. We can't put in any more new pieces of legislation. Professionalization of civil service in municipalities, it's necessary and it is urgent. Developmental local government should be accelerated in order to maximize social development and economic growth, to ensure that we have proper integration and coordination in municipalities, to ensure democratic development within municipalities, and also to build social capital. It is essential that developmental local government is accelerated. And now the question that I have is, to what extent is Section 139 of the Constitution effective in improving the performance in municipalities? And I want you to think about this. Is this a solution to all the problems that exist in municipalities, or may we need to, overall change some of the pieces of legislation that gives effect to service delivery in municipalities? It's a question that I pose to you. Thank you very much, moderator. I really appreciate your generosity in giving me extra time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Madumo, for that in-depth presentation on the legal basis for dissolving municipalities. Now we're going to hand over to Ayanda Kota from the UPM, who's going to give us a first-hand experience of what happened in Makhanda, where a municipality was dissolved, what challenges they faced, and how they went about to try to hold the municipality accountable. Thank you very much. Over to you, Ayanda. Ayanda, can you hear me?
Am I audible?
You can go ahead. You can go ahead. Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. I think the question that must be asked is, does the local government in South Africa do what it meant to do on a paper? As we've just heard the explanation. If we take a look at the recent audit report by the Auditor General Tsakana, 27 municipalities got clean audit, 89 municipalities got unqualified, meaning they are complying. It's compliance with your general acceptance accounting principles, and 66 got qualified. It means there is no evidence that the Auditor General can make an opinion, and 6 got adverse. There's no accuracy between the books and what is in front of the Auditor General, and 12 got disclaimer, just like our municipality, Makhanda Municipality. I think this is a very painful picture that has been that is painted in the Auditor General report. That's number one. Number two, I just want to throw 3 things here. Number two, on paper, the Municipal Systems Act of 2000, very key, talks about the involvement of citizens in governance and decision-making relating to how the local government needs and how local needs could be met. And IDP becomes an instrument of that transparency, of that accountability, etc. But if you just take a quick look at the IDP, you've got a case in 2011 where there was protest at Makhanda Municipality, and key to that protest was an issue of the failure of these municipalities to hold IDP meetings. There's a case law of Bobet, South Africa, versus Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality, that they were taken to court, that when they took a decision in a council meeting to increase tariffs, they did so without holding these IDP meetings and to get the response of the citizens. That's the question of IDP becomes quite key there again. There is also another case at JB Marks Municipality where the officials simply did not turn up to attend the IDP meetings. They advertised, people attended, but there were no officials to honor the meetings. In our municipality, we are looking into the IDP to say when last was the IDP meeting held before COVID. And what we get to hear as we are also part of these communities is for quite a while, these municipalities hasn't held IDP meetings. Recently at Ngambe Municipality, there was, because of its COVID, so they were doing this IDP over the radio station. It was just a matter of 5 minutes. The communities were not allowed to phone in and ask questions. Now, that's part one, right? And Auditor General report, it's something else. But I want to bring the third issue. The third issue would be, let us
Mr. Kota, we've lost your audio there. Please, can you just check that your microphone is on, please?
All right, my mic is on.
Okay, we can hear you now. Great.
Right. Now, if you look at Makhanda Municipality, we've got a budget of about just over 500 million. Of that 500 million, just over 386 million is through revenue, your rates, and just over 152 million, it's your equitable share. It's quite problematic, and the reason for this imbalance, it's because also, again, something that's structural. It's also because of your austerity that this municipality received. All these municipalities receive just about % of the total budget of the national government. And you've got a government that prioritizes that. As a result of prioritizing servicing the foreign debt, then these governments are compelled or obliged to introduce these austerity policies. Then you find that municipalities' budget is just around or about 9%. So I'm saying the problems in these municipalities are quite structural, and these municipalities are not working, and that's where the lives of our people are. So in this picture, then how do you, IDP, which is a failure, there are quite a number of case laws. You've got austerity on the other hand, a government that is not able to spend on public services, despite of what is written. You've got cases of IDP telling you something else. You've got this audit report. So it tells you you've got municipalities that are not working. As I conclude, let's look at the Makhanda Municipality with all the evidence that is in front of the Premier and the Council. They appealed the report. Judge Stretch said you must hang your head in shame for appealing. But you've got a province that is determined to appeal this. The matter now is in Bloemfontein, Supreme Court of Appeal. You've got a Premier and the provincial government, Kota, and municipality that is willing to go to the Constitutional Court. We collected 22,000 signatures. Over 23,000 people voted in the last local government election. This is what the people want. This is not what the ANC want. ANC wants something else. So you've got municipalities, you've got officials, you've got councillors that are not accountable to the people, but are accountable to the party. There is nowhere these municipalities and officials and politicians are accountable to the people. They are all accountable to the party. At OR Tambo, there's a dissolution because of the factional battles of the party. And the party feels you are accountable to us, we can remove you. Where the people have expressed to say we don't want these councillors throughout the country, the party did not respond. And you've got councillors that tells you that they are accountable to the party, whether it's EFF or it's ANC, or they are accountable to the party. So I'm saying you've got those things. It tells us that it's just not working. It's just not working. So our view is we need to rethink these municipalities. How can they work in the interest of the people? Let alone that they don't have money. That's very key, as I was saying, in terms of austerity and quite a number of issues. That's very key, that you've got municipalities that are complaining we don't have money. But also these municipalities are not working for our people. They are working for the party. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayanda Kota. Over to you, Sabia.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Kota. I think you've raised a really interesting point around how party politics interplay into and affect effective service delivery. I just want to ask a follow-up question, Mr. Kota, about how you managed to kind of rally the community and the citizens and the people of your municipality. And what are kind of the challenges that you faced, maybe in terms of funding or time or resources? If you could just speak to that question.
Thank you. I mean, when we started they were saying, is it about the dissolution of this municipality? We said yes, we signed. We don't want to hear any other thing. So you've got the question of resources, because here is the Unemployed People's Movement, which receives a little support from Oxfam and another support from the South African Development Fund to carry on these programs of holding municipalities accountable, of making sure that there's transparency and there's accountability. So we don't have enough resources. We continue to swim against the tide. But as they say, if you got the support of the residents, like in this city, then it's not a big issue, because you've got, I mean, whether you're black or white or Indian in this municipality, we are on the same page. We are on the same wavelength to say this municipality has failed people. Therefore, we think this municipality ought to be dissolved. So I'm saying you've got the majority of the residents that are saying to the government and to the party, in terms of constitution, section 1391C, please dissolve municipality. We've got all this overwhelming evidence. But then we've got the response of the Premier, of the MEC for Kota, of the council, that says we are going to correct. We are putting these measures in place to correct. But despite them saying they are going to correct it, the state of this, as I'm saying, the recent audit report, just the recent one, we've got disclaimer. What is it that they are trying to fix? So I'm saying you've got the voices of the residents of the city against the voice of the powerful elite, ruling elite of the African National Congress. And they are in government. Despite what the people want, you've got this tension. Despite of what the people want, if what people want is against the wishes and the wants of the party, then you'll always have this tension. And the party, and when you are referring to the party, you're not referring to the single entity. That's another matter. You're referring to which faction is powerful at that moment. So I'm saying it's quite. For example, you had Kabuso report, which painted a very worrisome picture about the corruption in Makhanda. No single individual that is mentioned in the Kabuso report where the council has taken a decision to say we are going to action this report, but they were quick to sweep it under the carpet. You've got another example, how to steal a city. A book about the Nelson Mandela Metro, how to steal a city. Some of the people who's really premier, because he happens to be in a place that wants transparency, that wants accountability to the people, and you've got the party. If they don't want that, they want something different, then you've got to suffer.
Thank you very much for that answer. I think you've pointed out some really important issues that are affecting service delivery in municipalities. Now to Dr. Madumo, I want to ask you a question of, how do you balance active citizenship and holding political representatives accountable? So, in instances where citizens have been able to take matters into their hands, how do we still continue at the same time to hold political representatives accountable instead of, essentially absolving them of the duties, not just political representatives, I guess, but also people like municipal managers?
All right, thanks for that. As I have already indicated in my opening remarks, it is incumbent upon a municipality or municipalities to ensure that there is they encourage citizen participation in the affairs of the municipality. And I have made a mention of two particular important processes, very important processes. And these processes relate to the process of integrated development planning. That would entail things like, for example, whatever service that the municipality ought to do or ought to provide to communities, it has to be detailed out in the IDP. And as a result, and as well, the process of ensuring that a budget gets approved, it has to go through that community participation. Now, citizens have to, get to a point where we, leave this political, apathy, we just put it aside and we have to take interest in whatever, the affairs of municipalities ought to be. Now, also to just highlight some of the reasons why ethical practice in local government are essential. If a municipality is well run or well governed, a municipality will fast track economic growth and as well as development. And a case in point here, I've got two cases. One is that of Lekwa local municipality in Mpumalanga, where there is a company called Astral Foods. The company called Astral Foods, some few years ago, the company had to close because of the lack of sustainable service provision from the municipality. And another case is a recent one in the Onkgopotse local municipality in Northwest, where Clover South Africa decided no, we are no longer going to function in this particular environment. We are actually losing a lot of money because of, consistent power cuts. And this is not even load shedding, it's just power cuts. Potholes on the roads that leads to our factory and so on. And we are now relocating to eThekwini in KZN, because a municipality that is eThekwini is providing service, and it also promises that they will provide adequate service to our company, our sister company there and in both the cases, people's jobs, this is people's livelihoods, would be lost. And also the second reason is that of, if a municipality is well governed, it ensures sustainability. A municipality will be able to be self-sustainable, self-sustaining. And the third aspect is that of improving public trust in government. And the moment there's public trust, then it boils down to the question that we have asked: why would I feel like I want to participate in the affairs of the municipality if I don't trust the government in the first instance? But the moment I have trust in the government, in what they tell me, what they say to me, then I am bound to, feel that I am being taken seriously, and it is not just simply a sake of tokenism or placation for if you like. So it's just a matter of me being empowered as a citizen to participate in the affairs of the municipality. And I don't know if I can answer. I saw some of the questions on the chat box. Sakile, that was directly, directed to me. Sakile asked a question about the failure of municipality given the highly regulated environment. Now, Sakile, my simple answer to you would be the weak institutional mechanisms that are in place in government. You've got weak councillors, and by weak I mean that councillors that do not engage the material of the council. That would be your IDP. IDP is a very thick document, and you find councillors that are simply lazy to read an IDP. They don't even know some of the things that are contained within an IDP in a municipality. You've got weak institutional mechanisms such as your municipal public accounts committees, and as well as some of the weak processes that are in place. And that is the reason why, with this highly regulated environment, through legislation, you will continuously have some of these issues. And Octavia asked a question about the Constitutional Court. Why is it that the Constitutional Court is not doing anything about constitutional transgressions by municipalities? My answer to that would be that, the Constitutional Court is not a government. The Constitutional Court is there to just simply adjudicate processes and matters, but it's not the government. So it is incumbent upon the government to self-rectify. And how does the government self-rectify? It is through, the citizens voting the correct people into positions of power. And the last question was from Esther, who asked who appoints or who elects or appoints the provincial executive. Esther, it is you and... Yes.
Sorry, 1 minute. I'd like to bring Mr. Kota in as well. Thanks.
All right. Yeah. The provincial executive is elected by you and I. When we vote for national and provincial government elections, we vote this premier and the MECs into their office. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Madumo. Thank you for taking us to some of the questions in the chat. I just wanted to highlight as well that there's been a lot of support for the UPM's ideas, and also that they're providing inspiration to other citizens. And just to bring in Mr. Kota, I think there's a very important question that I've noted here about how do communities remove municipalities without fear of victimization. And I think it would be really important to hear from your experience in having your municipality of Makhanda dissolved, about how you possibly dealt with victimization. So yeah, if we could hear some of your experience around that, Mr. Kota.
All right, thank you very much. before I get to that question, I think Dr. Madumo has raised something very important, the question of trust. And I think there's a trust deficit between the people and the politicians. And this trust deficit manifests itself in many ways. If you look at Makhanda, for example, I think it's what 11, the number of people who registered to vote were just above 1,600. And the number of people who went to vote on the day of voting were around 500. So it tells you of this trust deficit that exists between the municipalities. Coming to your question, well, it is not easy because of what I normally refer to as a danglement of the carrot and the stick. The first one would be to co-opt you, to silence you. That's what we have seen in quite a number of poor people's movements throughout across the country, of how they were co-opted by the system. Then if you refuse the co-option, then you get the whip. You would remember that at some point I received, it was in the public media, I received an SMS and saying I will be killed. And I received these phone calls, which I was not sure if they were tracking my moves. So I had to go to hiding, and because it was quite very, very serious, and it was not for the first time. So that's number one. You've got comrades of the anti-evictions who were very articulative, asking a councillor in an IGB meeting. The police were called and the charges were brought against him, malicious charges. And the comrades was sentenced, I think, to 5 years. Subsequently to that, the comrade became abnormal because of the nervous breakdown and because of the stress. So I'm saying if you speak to a number of activists who are doing the sort of work that we are doing, it is not easy. And the politicians are very cruel. And if you ask them questions and you and you demand accountability, to them it's not about accountability and transparency. And to them you're declaring a war, and that's how they take it. And we have seen in KZN and how the politicians kill each other. And because, I mean, to them it's about this power and prestige. They will do absolutely necessary, whatever it takes to defend their position. So I think, to me, that's the issue. The last point that I want to make in less than 10 seconds. Even if you look at the platforms or whatever you call of oversight, whether it's council, whether it's unpack, whether it's COCTA, I mean, they are not doing. I mean, it's there. They have written down that they will be playing this oversight role. But the reality of the matter, they are not able to play this oversight because of the environment the politics in our country, the discourse. It's one that is very stressful. It's one that is very stressing, because we can't have a decent conversation like this with the politicians and be critical of each other without turning that into violence, into threats, into intimidations. As if when we're elected as these councillors or as these officials, then we assume this right. There is. I think there's one writer who makes this point that there's a belief that humans without external governance from above will result in violence and disorder, which is a myth. Meaning everything must be through the government, must be through the structures. If you speak outside the formal politics, you come together as citizens, then that's disorder, you are violent, you are a third force, all of that. That's why I'm saying the terrain that we are operating from, it's not a very comfortable one, because we've got to swim against the tide.
Thank you very much, Ayanda. I'm just going to ask a question, I think, to both of you. It comes from the chart. So it says, shouldn't current municipal systems be overhauled? Why do people have to politicize municipal functions, and why not have qualified and skilled people in governance in municipalities? So the question can apply to both of you guys as concluding remarks to the webinar.
If I may come in before you talk, that has always been our point. Depoliticize municipalities. Depoliticize municipalities. Depoliticize municipalities. And overwhelm and rethink because it's not working. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Maybe just to also add on what Mr. Kota has emphasized. And it's indeed, I mean, when you depoliticize, effectively, what you would be doing is to professionalize. So by professionalizing, you would be appointing people who are fit for purpose, who exactly know why they are in the positions that they are in and what is it that is expected of them, and the constitutional, obligation that is vested in their offices, and I absolutely agree. Depoliticization of municipalities would be the greatest solution ever. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those concluding remarks. And I just also want to say thank you very much to our speakers for allowing us to have such a fruitful and interesting discussion and for unpacking these issues around holding municipalities accountable and active citizenship that we need to keep in mind, including, for example, the legislative framework that we need to hold our municipalities and representatives to, and how party politics can interfere so deeply in the effective running of a municipality. And as you've both mentioned, how important the depoliticization of this is. And then also the issue around how important it is for government to address the deficit of trust between government and communities, which is affecting, things like voter turnout, but then also the ability of communities and citizens to access accountability in their leadership and municipal officials. And also the need for active citizenship and collective action, because as you said, Mr. Kota, you have essentially got the voice of the community and the people behind you. And this is what drives your ability to hold your municipality accountable and access mechanisms of justice. So it has been a very enriching and informative webinar. Thank you. I've seen a lot of comments and questions in the chat. Just to let everyone know that a recording of this webinar will be sent to those who have registered within an hour or so after it has ended. It will also be available on the Corruption Watch YouTube page. If you'd like to join our future webinars on local government and other issues, you can subscribe to our newsletter at www.corruptionwatch.org.za. You can also report corruption on our website. The link has been pinned in the chat if you'd like to report corruption. And thank you very much to everyone for joining us today, for the questions and for the important conversation that has also been happening in the chat. And thank you so much again, finally, to our speakers for taking the time to speak with us. And I will wish you a pleasant day further.